Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sparks 2025 WNBA post-draft Zoom. First, we'll hear from our general manager, Raegan Pebley.
After I unmute myself. Hi, everybody. The draft is over. We are thrilled with it. What a process this has been. So grateful for the chance to be a part of this year two, and all the work that went into it. We had a great team of people that we worked with collaboratively throughout the college season and scouting in person, on video, doing deep dives in the analytics space. Not only the college players, but also internationally. Really also want to recognize the work of Eli Horowitz, our assistant GM, and the partnership and experience that he brings into this as well. He's a significant part and role in all of this for us. So I mentioned, and I've talked about it a few times, we follow a model here, the eyes, ears, and numbers. And we are continuing to stay consistent with that. And, the eye test is definitely a huge part of what Lynne brings to the table, and doubling down on the experience and how these players fit, and just what her experience shows their potential to be in the system that she's going to run. The ears is really assessing the culture fit, the motivation that they have, the influences that they have in their life, where their strengths are, where are spaces that they need resources in. And the numbers is the analytics. There's a lot of people who know and believe, like the film, eyes in the sky don't lie, and numbers can catch you in your blind spots, and inform and provide data needed. One of the things that we really knew that this team needed was a 3-and-D player, and we looked in all positions for that. We weren't just narrowed in on a wing or a guard. We stayed really open to where that could come from. And in every way, Sarah Ashley Barker, and honestly, all three of our draftees had checks in the eyes, the ears, and the numbers. Essay was significantly stood out in the 3-and-D category. She held opponents to 23% field goal percentage as a primary defender in a conference that is incredibly competitive. Her matchups are some of the best players in the country. That's 5th lowest in the country. Shooting 38% from the three, and you can actually bump that up to 47% on her catch and shoot. And with players around her like KP and Odyssey and Julie Alleman, Rakia, that are going to be able to do things off the bounce, you need to have those shooters out there on the perimeter. So we're really excited to have a little roll tide element in LA. And then Sanaya, really, I was stunned. Our whole war room was stunned that she was still available as late as she was. And we wanted to bring some post depth, some center depth, some rim protection depth. But she's also a player that I think has a runway ahead of her that will only expand her range and her ability and her potential. She's won 144 games in college and only lost 7. She stayed at South Carolina her entire career. She's won 2 national championships. So that is something you cannot dismiss. And add that with her 61% 2-point field goal percentage, as well as 2.2 stocks, that steals and blocks, in just 19 minutes. It's pretty special. And then lastly, Leatu King from Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. So, she transferred to Notre Dame from Pitt, and at both places in her last 2 seasons, she's averaged a double-double. And she did that, I thought, at Notre Dame in a way where they weren't running plays for her. She found a way to impact, whether it was rebounding, transition, and definitely also her defensive ability and versatility. She's a very high shot quality player. She doesn't take shots she doesn't think she can miss or make. And great teammate. Niele Ivey is somebody that we leaned on heavily, as well as talking to Dawn Staley about Sanaya, and Christy Curry at Alabama, and all of them obviously raved about their players. So really excited about this 2025 draft class.
Let's start with DJ from Infinity TV.
Hey, thanks so much. A quick question. Raegan, great introduction, just talking about the players and the whys behind. I noticed that all three players were over 6 feet tall. Is that this question can be for you or Coach Raegan? I'm sorry, Coach Lynne. Is that a part of the positionless planning that we're talking about, and how will that attribute to our offense this year?
Go ahead, Lynne.
Yeah, I think length and we want to play a style that's really hard to defend, and the first line of that is versatility. If you are pigeonholed into one position, you're a little bit easier to guard, and there's limited opportunities, and so length, it allows you to do different things defensively, whether that's switching or trapping or whatever. Defensively, it really helps, and then obviously offensively, I love all three of these guys. And we want to get out and run and score and do all those things, and these guys have been proven at the highest level. These guys are coming from really good conferences and really good teams, so I think they bring all that.
Thank you.
Edwin?
My question is for Coach. When it comes to Barker, how do you see her envisioning in your system here in the WNBA with the Sparks?
I think she's going to be a great fit. I really do. And we were, she's who we wanted going into this 9th pick. It's who we had circled. So we were fired up when we were finally on the clock, and we knew we were able to get who we really wanted. So that was exciting. But, I think the thing about Sarah Ashley is she's just a competitor at heart. I think, she can shoot the three. She's a great shooting percentage from the three, but that's not all that she is either. She can put the ball on the floor. She's got a good pull up. She plays off 2 feet in the paint really well, which can make up for maybe if you're, not as big or whatever. I think that can, alleviate some of the trouble you can get in as a guard in the paint. But then also just defensively, I think she's an under talked about defender. We watched a lot of film and broke down a lot of the analytics with everything, and she checks all the boxes in terms of what we really need. Like Raegan said, we've got KP and Odyssey and Ari McDonald and Julie Alamon, and so in terms of, to your specific question, where will she fit? I think she can play the 3 or the 2, and that was the biggest need we had coming into the draft.
David?
Hey, my question's for Coach. I wanted to ask you about Sanaya. Obviously, the past couple seasons, she's had other players ahead of her. But this year, she's really stepped into a bigger role with South Carolina. Just kind of what kind of growth have you seen in her as a player, over this past year?
Yeah, I think, Raegan mentioned that too. I think in today's day and age, to have a player like her in a program like that stay all 4 years when she's kind of had to wait her turn, I think speaks volume to her work ethic and to her character. And those are things that we want in our franchise. We want players that are willing to put in the work and improve. And I think, Sanaya, we watched film from her in previous seasons, and she has had to wait her turn. But man, that's an incredible learning experience as a player. And she won 144 games. I mean, that's insane when you think about that. And then this year she took on a very central, specific role. And did a great job. Her footwork has improved, her finishing with both hands. She's able to do that. And then what I think she really worked on, obviously, was that ability to hit that kind of high post, stretch the defense a little bit and knock down that jumper. I think that changed her game.
Javon?
Hi, this is Charlotte with FI360 News. This is for Coach and also the GM. Raegan, you can chime in. But you guys drafted Raegan, and I was wondering, with the tradition of having post players, even though I know you say positionless players, but with the tradition of Candace and Lisa Leslie, how do you see Raegan coming in, holding up with that type of tradition?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, she's a winner. and she knows what it takes, and she's been coached by one of the best. She's been coached hard. She knows what it's like to compete not only against the opponent, but compete for minutes. And that there's value in that. And so, this league is hard. It's, probably the toughest professional league to make it and contribute. But she's shown that she's willing to do the work, and she's a competitor, but I love her potential. And I know that's kind of an overused word. But I think when you're talking about specifically post players, it's an important word, because sometimes it takes a bit. But I do think she has all the natural tools to be a really good WNBA player. And I use the term positionless, but obviously she's going to be a post player. But I think her ability to shoot outside a little bit makes her even more valuable to us as we continue to build this thing.
Let's go to Jackie Ray.
Hey, Coach, Jackie with Jackie Ray TV. You kind of mentioned it, but when you're talking about a positionless system with these young players, do you think that's going to put more stress on them? Because sometimes the translation from college to pros there's a little bit of a learning curve. Do you think this is an easier system for them to go into with you kind of running a positionless system?
Yeah, I think there's some, it's a system where players get to make decisions. It's read and react. It's less about, having 27 sets, and it's more about putting players in positions for them to be successful with what they're good at. And I will do that with her. And I think she has the potential to be, a really good player in this league. And I do think the way we play will help her, because it's not going to be, it's more of a flow and that type of thing. And I think it might be easier to adapt to.
You're up, Kahari.
Hey, this question is for coaches Kahari Jones Jr. with the LA Sentinel. Coach Raegan had mentioned how you all were looking for specific players, like someone that's that fits the culture. She said that you mentioned that you're good the eye test as well. He talked about how important is those other things outside of the game that's good for the team.
Yeah, I appreciate that question, because that's a huge part of what we're doing from top to bottom in the whole organization. And I think from our president on down, our ownership, like, who we have matters. It's not just what they can do, whether that's me or a assistant coach or our player development or the players on the team. We want people that are bought into, it's about the franchise, it's about us winning. And that's why we were so excited to get who we got, because we really feel confident that these three are total culture fits. And that really, really does matter.
Andrew?
Thanks a lot, as always, Josh. This was asked first to Raegan. Raegan, the fact that you were surprised to get Sanaya at 21, what was just that reaction for you to get her where it looked like she was going to be in the teens in this draft? And just your excitement conversation with Sanaya, with Sarah, and with Latu over being on the Sparks right now.
Yeah. Well, she was invited by the WNBA to New York, and usually those players that are invited are indicators of where they might go. So that was like one kind of, I don't think she's going to be there. We had identified her early. But then just as each pick was happening, we were like, oh my goodness, it might happen. So, we had a great meeting with her, and actually had said to her, look, I don't know that you're going to be there and available for us, but we don't want to miss on this opportunity to establish a relationship and get to know you, because you never know what's going to happen in this league. And sure enough, that manifested itself in a different way than I thought. So, the only thing I'd add, just skill set wise, with Sanaya that I think is really special is her footwork. And the South Carolina program does an excellent job with post player development, and you've seen post players one after another come into the league and impact and not just make a team, but legitimately impact. And I think she's benefited going against those players for 4 years, waiting her turn for those players, but also learning. and getting better and better. And it made her ready when her opportunity came this year. And all the conversations, just really cool, special for each of them. It's a moment, you know, that they're going to remember the rest of their lives. Like, we're going to have this moment every single year of getting to make these phone calls and make these picks, but this is their one and only time. And we are so thankful to be a part of it. It's humbling. You know, on a personal level, it was kind of fun to be able to connect with Leah too, not just in her draft interview that we had with her ahead of time, but also afterwards. She is the daughter of two deaf parents, and I know some sign language and was able to sign with her parents and welcoming them to the Sparks. And that was just kind of really cool that got to do that and help them feel a part of the Sparks family in a special way.
Thanks for your time, Liz.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew.
Ricardo?
Hello, everyone. Ricardo Sandoval from Sparks on SI. Barker's really a do-it-all type of player. I was wondering if her performance in the NCAA tournament had anything to do with her evaluation process, or if you guys already had her really like high on your guys' board. How did that play out, if anything?
Well, she was a player that was actually eligible to come out last year. And so we were able to watch her quite a bit last year. And I thought, you know, she made a bit of a risky decision, but she went for it. And I thought that said something about the gutsiness of her. So we were watching her from the get-go of the season because we had already been watching her from a season ago. But it is interesting. Like we like to watch games where this seems like there's no consequences, where it doesn't hurt you if you win or you lose due to net rating and positions in the league. Also some games where there's a lot at risk, and to see how people show up and their consistency. And obviously everyone, I think, is aware of that Maryland game and the double overtime. And I think she turned into a meme. Like, if I send you this picture, it means I did all that I could. And you know, I think that definitely was a cherry on top of her career, although she traded for a win. But her overall body of work led to that choice.
Cameron?
This is Cameron Ruby from The Next. I know you talked a little bit about culture, and that's such a hard thing to really see until it's all the way in your system. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what that evaluation process looks like. I know you talked a little bit about what's important, but how you kind of go about discerning whether or not, you know, someone's a cultural fit, and how that played out this year.
Well, one thing for sure is I think when you make your culture about a million things, sometimes like it's hard to make those assessments, but we really wanted to make some of the main things in that assessment. And it's, are you a good teammate? Do you know how to show up as a good teammate when things are going your way and when they're not going your way? And you can evaluate that in a lot of different ways. It's also your competitiveness and, you know, how you show up to compete in all different scenarios and even in practice. You know, that was a huge piece. Work ethic, you know, this is something that a part of Kelsey Plum coming into our organization was not just about how Kelsey plays on the court, it's how she prepares herself to play on the court. And, you know, this whole organization is going to, I think, rise to her level. And we wanted to bring people that could reflect that as well. So those were three key pieces that were important to us culturally, and you assess that through a lot of diligent work. I'm thankful for the relationships that I have with a lot of college coaches that Lynne has. We brought Mike Neighbors on our staff, who has a lot of close relationships with coaching staffs and are able to get some information that you might normally not be able to get without those relationships.
We'll close it out with two final questions, Nick and then Michael.
Nightcast Media. First of all, congratulations to you both on this draft. The question is for Raegan and Coach Lynne. You guys also talk about culture, but speaking about Sarah Ashley Barker, what specifically stood out to her away from the court, and obviously her skill set on the court, but off the court, what stood out in you all's mind that said this would be a great fit for her to come to the Los Angeles Sparks organization?
Honestly, I think her humility, was a part of it. You know, she talked about stepping up and hitting those 3 free throws. And how, you know, she knew going into that, if it was part of, you know, God's plan, she was going to hit them. If it wasn't, she was going to be okay. And she was going to continue to be the person that she needed to be and still, you know, love on her family and her teammates and her university, all of that. And, you know, her humility was definitely something. To find people who are humble while still remaining confident and assertive and aggressive, is sometimes harder than you think. And we love that about her. I don't know if Lynn, you'd add anything.
I think that I would echo all of that. I think with Sarah Ashley, she's just very grounded in who she is, and what she's about. And, you know, when you find young people like that, I mean, that's hard when you're 21, 22. You just, when you're that way, when you're grounded and you know who you are and you know what you stand for, you handle adversity just a lot better. And, you know, it's a maturing process through life. And, you know, she's just a little ahead of the curve in that regard. She's just very grounded and knows who she is. And to that humility piece, knows that she's got, you know, work to do and to improve her game and all those things. And so there's a confidence, humility, but just a real sense of self with her, that I think is going to be a huge advantage for her in this league.
Last question, Michael.
Hey guys, Mike Matthew here with LA Sparks Weekly. My question is for Coach and Raegan. Just when you hear about all 3 of these picks, you would hear in terms like hard workers and even that, you know, they're dogs on the court. Just how does that fit into what you all guys already have coming in, you know, from last year, and then of course adding Plum.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah, it's cool that you pick up on that. I think that's, you know, that's who I am. You know, and it's no coincidence that those are the players that I'm drawn to, in terms of, you know, anything that I have, I've earned, and I don't believe that I deserve anything. I'm going to earn anything that I am fortunate enough to achieve or get or whatever. You earn it through really hard work, and you earn it through being humble, and you earn it through not making it about yourself. And I think that's what I want to coach. And those are the teams that if you can get everybody pointed in the same direction and they all kind of have that mindset, you can really do some cool things and some fun things and, you know, get back to the championship ways that the Sparks deserve to get back to. And so I think these 3 all kind of exemplify, in their own different ways. Each of their journeys has been different, but if you look at kind of the thread that weaves through all 3, they've had to fight through some things. They've had to wait their turn. They've, you know, all of the above. And I think that that's who we want to have. And on top of that, it's not like these 3 are, not good enough. I mean, they're studs. And I think we felt like when we walked out of that war room, like we won the draft in terms of for where we are and who we need and who we want. We succeeded. We got a victory tonight. And I'm sure other teams and franchises feel the same way. They're walking out, but for where we were, where we are, what we really want our franchise to be about, I think we won.
Thank you everyone for joining us. We'll be in touch soon with the timing for our presser introducing Sarah Ashley, Sanaya, and Leatu. Have a great night.
Thanks for being here, everybody. Appreciate your coverage.
Bye, y'all.
Have a great
Thank
night.
you, coaches.
Thank you guys.